The decisive factor was the smell of cigarette smoke. I quit smoking at the age of 11. I had managed to smoke 10 packs of my mom's cigarettes and didn't feel very good. My brother laughed at me, saying that I was doing everything wrong. Later that same day, I talked to my favorite uncle, a sailor and a smoker. "If you keep smoking, Tash, you'll never have any money." I wish I had never started. He always called me Tash. I think it was a nickname from his time in the Navy. I loved my uncle, and that short conversation made me wonder why I was smoking in the first place. The reason was obvious. I wanted to be like the big boys, like my brother. I wanted to be accepted. It didn't take long to realize that they wouldn't be impressed. They wouldn't accept me because I was too young. Moreover, I realized that I didn't like the people I was trying to impress at all. So that was it, no more cigarettes. My resolve wavered slightly when I started chasing after girls. I wanted to impress them with how macho I was. Hanging around the streets with a cigarette in my mouth seemed so cool. I hesitated until the moment the coolest girl in school. "Rebecca Davis, let me kiss her." Rebecca was a smoker, and so cool she hung out with guys my brother's age, and let me kiss her. I was on cloud 9 until I tasted it. Yuck, if smokers taste like this. I don't want any part of it. I broke up with Rebecca, who looked very hurt and continued living as before, not cool and not smoking. I was always considered a bit unsociable since the time I was bullied on the playground. I tried not to show my emotions. "Hit them hard and hit them where it hurts," my uncle said. "But above all, never let anyone see that they've gotten to you. That's exactly what they want, and if they don't get it from you, they'll move on to someone else." This worked against the bullies but left a side effect that was somewhat less desirable. I was left with an inability to show emotions. Years passed and I found myself a sweet, non-smoking girl. Her name was Barbara, and we hit it off immediately. 18 months later, I proposed to her and she accepted. That was 23 years ago. A lot of water has flowed under the bridge since then. We have 2 grown children, Henry, who just graduated from university, and Zoe, who was nearing the end of her first year of study with Barb. I could be myself. I could let down my guard a bit. When my brother died of lung cancer at just 42, it hit me harder than I expected. For several weeks after his death, I would find myself suddenly bursting into tears. When I was alone, Barb always found me and held me until I stopped crying. Not a day went by that I didn't tell her I loved her. Her friends would ask her what it was like to be married to someone as unemotional as me. She always gave the same response. "You don't know him. You see a cold, logical guy. I see a warm-hearted person willing to do anything for his family. He gets angry like any man, but he doesn't shout and scream like some. Frank is quiet and seems even calmer. If you don't know him, you'd never guess he was angry. We became empty nesters and I liked it." Barb's libido seemed to increase and we became more adventurous. Even after all this time, my heart does a somersault when I look at her. I always took pride in being seen with her, but when she started taking more care of her appearance, I was doubly excited. That's why I didn't notice. At first I thought I was just more in love and desired her more. But the smell in our bedroom that Thursday night made me think, and I realized it wasn't that I was flirting more often, but that Barb was pushing me away more often. Barb never had a particularly strong sense of smell. Whereas mine was always keen, she didn't notice anything, but I picked up on everything. Some smells I loved, like Barb scent. When I lay next to her in bed, other smells I hated, especially the smell of cigarette smoke. I hated how it clung to clothes and hair and lingered there. Spending an evening with a smoker was enough to leave my clothes smelling for days, so the smell here in my own bedroom alarmed me. I asked Barb about it, but she didn't smell anything. She said, I was imagining things. I might have believed her if I hadn't smelled it again. The following Tuesday, I called Barb into the bedroom and asked her about it, but she again denied there was any smell. On Thursday, the room smelled like air freshener. This raised serious suspicions. I walked to the window and sniffed the curtains. It was cigarette smoke. Again, this was serious. Someone was smoking in my bedroom and Barb was trying to hide it. There was only one conclusion to draw. It took me 2 weeks to put the pieces together, so 2 weeks later on Tuesday evening there was a confrontation. We were both sitting down to dinner and Barb had just started chewing a delicious piece of chicken. When I asked her, "Who is he, Barb?" the sharp inhale caused her to choke violently on the chicken. I thought I might have to perform the Heimlich maneuver. She composed herself, and I brought her a glass of water. "Who is this?" "Who?" she asked, trying to bluff the man. "You're letting smoke in our bedroom. Who is he?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." What are you accusing me of? It's very simple, Barb. I'm accusing you of inviting a man into our bedroom and letting him smoke. I know it's true, I can smell him. You've lost your mind, all calm and quiet, and suddenly you're raging. You need to get your nose checked. There's no smoking man here. I stopped eating and stood up looking down at her. I pointed to my plate. By the way, the chicken is fantastic. I walked down the hallway to our bedroom, picked up a small round object, and returned to the table. I went to the corner of the living room I used as an office and came back with a laptop. I sat down and resumed eating. Really superb, Barb. You should have some more what you ate. Wouldn't feed a fly. I've lost my appetite. What's all this for chewing another piece of chicken? I wiped my mouth with a napkin and picked up the round object. This, my dear, is a Wi-Fi webcam. See the little antenna at the back? I left it in our bedroom. Today, I approached my laptop. This, as you know, is my laptop, and I assume you know it supports Wi-Fi. It can connect to the webcam wirelessly. Today I had a program running on it that records from the camera whenever there's movement. I wonder what it recorded today. Maybe a man smoking in our bedroom, possibly even sitting on our bed. Perhaps my dear wife lying next to him. Shall we take a look? Barb reached out and closed the laptop. No, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to. It's all true there. I've said it. Do you feel happy now? Happy? You think I should be happy to find out that my wife entertained another man in my bedroom and lay there while he smoked in our bed? No, I'm not happy now. I'll ask you again. Who is he? I can't. I can't tell you. You'll want to hurt him. And if you do, you'll go to jail. I can't bear that. I love you. Barb, I promise I won't touch him. So who is he? Do you promise, you really promise you won't touch him? Barb, I gave you my word. I won't touch him. Have I ever broken a promise? She paused for a moment and thought. No, you haven't. All right. Then everything is fine. I'll ask again. Who is he? Her head dropped and she looked at her feet. His name is Richard Bryant. He's a college student. I see, and you as the head of student services were just doing your job by servicing the students. That's inappropriate and beneath you. Frank. Okay, now all the cards are on the table. What are you going to do? Do you want a divorce so you can marry him? No, I don't love him. I love you. Don't leave me. Frank, please, please don't leave me. And then what will you give him up? I'm not sure if I can. I'd like to say yes, but I won't make promises I can't keep. Can't we just let things take their course? I know it's just an infatuation, and I know he'll get tired of me, for God's sake. He's only 20 soon. He'll want younger girls and it will all be over. And if I don't agree, then I'll try to give him up. Frank, I really will, but the pull is so strong when he's with me. I feel so alive. I'm not sure I can do it. Frank, and I don't make you feel alive. It's different with you. Frank, being with you, I feel loved. I'm so proud to be with you, but it's not the same. Please, Frank, please say you'll try. I really don't want to lose you. Can you try, Frank? Please. I don't know. I'll think about it and tell you tomorrow. I stood up and began clearing the dishes. Are you serious? Frank, are you really serious? Will you think about it? I just said that, didn't I? Now I'd better start moving my things into the spare room. No, Frank. I don't want that. I really don't. Please don't move out. I have to. Barb, I know how young men can be. He'll throw his tracks everywhere, and I sure don't want to catch anything. I'll let you know tomorrow. I left Barb crying at the table and spent the rest of the evening moving all my things out of the master bedroom. The next evening, Barb made beef roe, enough my favorite dish, especially the way she made it once again. She barely touched her food, just moved it around on her plate. When I finished eating, she sat watching me until curiosity got the better of her. Well, have you decided? Yes, Barb, I have. Well, don't keep me in suspense. What have you decided? It's over. It ends right here, right now. From this moment on, you will have nothing to do with him. If he shows up at your office, you will send someone else to deal with him. Is that clear? Barb, it's over and you'll stay with me? Frank, will everything be like it was before? Maybe. I don't know. This has never happened to me before. But yes, maybe with time I can get over it. Thank you. Frank, I'll try. I really will. You'll do more than just try. Barb, if you want us to stay together, you'll make it happen. God knows I love you more than anything, but I won't let you humiliate me. Will you move back into our bedroom? Not yet. If I'm in the same bed with you, I won't be able to keep my hands off you. I think we both need to get tested for sexually transmitted diseases. First, I'll make an appointment in the morning. I don't think there's anything to worry about. I'm sure he's clean. Nevertheless, we'll both get tested like I said. I know young people. I was one of them once. If he's sleeping with you, he's probably sleeping with someone else too. Frank, do you have to be so rude? Just telling it like it is, Barb. And afterward, when we're both sure everything is okay, I'll consider moving back in with you. Over the next month, things went well. Barb seemed more like her old self. She did everything she could to lure me back into the bedroom. She would change clothes when she got home. So by the time I arrived, she was wearing short skirts or very tight jeans with a very thin blouse, usually without a bra. In the evening, she would sit next to me on the couch, hug my arm and press it against her soft chest. At the end of the evening, she would look at me and say, "Well, I'm going to bed. Don't you want to join me?" I even began to weaken. I was determined to endure the entire 3-month incubation period for HIV, but after just a month, I was no longer sure I could continue. I loved her as if there was no tomorrow. I desired her constantly. I'm not a religious man, but I prayed for her to stay away from him. Then my nose betrayed me again. She was standing at the sink, draining water from the vegetables she was wearing, jeans that must have cost a fortune, and a thin white t-shirt. Even from behind, I could tell she wasn't wearing a bra. At that moment, I lost control. I approached her from behind, slipped my hands under her arms, and began to squeeze her. She set down the pot, raised her arms to cover mine, and pressed herself tightly against me. Mim. "Now this feels like my sexy husband," she said. She leaned against me again. As she did, my nose caught her hair there. It was that smell cigarette smoke, the same cheap brand, if I wasn't mistaken. I stepped back. She looked slightly puzzled as I pulled away from her. What happened? "I shouldn't be doing this." "What do you mean? You shouldn't be doing this? You're my husband. For God's sake, if you shouldn't be doing this, then who the hell should?" "Sorry, I lost control for a minute." "And that's good. I've been trying to make you lose control for the past month. I want you to lose control. I want my husband back. You really want me back. Do you really want that?" She looked into my eyes, searching for something that could tell her what was going on. "Yes, that's what I want. I've been telling you that for the past month. Are you sure? Are you sure you want me and not your young lover?" "No, of course not. I did what you said." "I don't see him anymore." She was good, but not good enough. When she lies, she always takes off her wedding ring, and I saw her doing just that. There was also a tremor in her voice. "I need to think I'm going to leave for a while." "Can't this wait until dinner is over?" "I'm almost ready to serve it. Just put it on a plate and cover it. I'll heat it up when I get back." I drove to the lake and sat there watching the windsurfers enjoying the evening sun. I stayed there until sunset, then drove back home. Barb met me at the door, took my hand and laid her head on my shoulder. "Have you thought it over?" I nodded. "I wish you would sometimes let me know what's going on in your head." "No, Barb, I don't think you want to know. I ate alone." While Barb watched after dinner, I went to bed, leaving Barb to watch TV. The next day I was sitting outside the lawyer's office, waiting for them to return from lunch. The lawyer's office was right across the street from our local college. I was sitting there in my van watching the students come and go when I noticed a group of 6 students walking in my direction, more precisely 5 students in Barbara. They were all laughing and joking as they crossed the road and went into the pub on the corner. I must admit I didn't recognize her. At first she looked like one of them. I sat in the van watching the pub door, not noticing the lawyers and their secretaries. Returning to work, the sky clouded over and a light drizzle began. I stayed there for probably 45 minutes. When I saw her come out, she was alone and decided to run back to work to avoid getting wet. I crossed the road and entered the bar, seeing them all gathered around a table by the window. I bought myself a pint of Old Good and sat at a table next to them. The girls all got up and went to the restroom. Together I sat and eavesdropped on the conversation. "Are you serious, Richie? Do you even want anything? How about something nice? Does she do nice things for you?" "I told you BOS anything at all. I'll have to start watching adult films to get new ideas." "And what are you going to do with her? I mean, isn't she a bit old for you? She can more than keep up with me." "Tell you what, Rich, you can pass her on to me when you're done well, then take her Joan, so you're going to dump her." "Maybe depends on whether I can hook up with Stephanie. I'll give you £20 for her for £20. You wouldn't even get a night." Jones. "Hey, here's an idea, I could rent her out." They all laughed as the girls returned. "What's so funny?" asked one of the girls. "Richie is thinking about renting out his." Milf said the one called Jones. Don't be so cruel, said another girl. I think Babs is wonderful. I wish my mom were like her and I wish I had boobs like hers, said the first girl. I can't believe she found anything in you. Richie, she likes my big tool. Her old man can't get it up anymore. They sleep in separate rooms. I felt a surge of anger and immense sadness. How could this jerk for whom she risked so much treat her with such disrespect? I wanted to sink my teeth into his throat. I wanted to castrate him with a beer glass, but I was held back by the promise I made to Barb. I won't touch him, I said. How could I have been so foolish? Throughout the conversation, Richie was watching the rain outside. Now I noticed him reach into his pocket and pull out a pack of cigarettes. As he took out his lighter, Joan spoke up. You can't smoke in here, buddy. It's against the law. Well, I'm not going outside. It's raining. I need a cigarette, and if people don't like it, they can go to hell. I took my beer and moved to the bar counter. Despite all my efforts, my eyes were wet. I wiped one eye when the owner approached. You okay, buddy? What? Oh, yes, I'm fine. Just the cigarette smoke. It always makes my eyes sting. The owner looked around the bar. Richie was trying to hide the cigarette in his clenched hand, but the rising smoke gave him away. All right, you all need to leave. Richie quickly put out the cigarette and showed it to the owner. Okay, no need to panic. Don't get riled up, all right. Not getting riled up is good. Richie, said Jones, looking at the owner's bald head. I didn't tell you to put it out. I told you to get out. Now you have 10 seconds before I let the dogs loose. He started counting down from 10. Fine. We're leaving. I never liked this damn pub anyway. In that case, you won't want to come back here, and that's good because you're all banned now. Get out of my pub. As they were leaving, Richie gave the pub owner the finger and one of the girls groaned. This is all your fault. Richie, where are we going to go now? They reached the door, looked at the rain, and ran back towards the college. I'm very sorry, sir. Now can I top off your pint? No, thank you. I should be the one apologizing. I didn't mean for you to lose customers like that. I can do without customers like that. They come here with an older woman. I think that jerk is probably sleeping with her anyway. They all live off her, and when she leaves, they make sure their drinks last all day. I feel sorry for her. She seems nice, pretty, isn't she? Well, let's just say I wouldn't climb over her to get to you if you catch my drift. So what makes you feel sorry for her? Well, I'm not qualified or anything, but in this job you see life. In my opinion, she's desperately trying to recapture her youth. She seems nice and she's married, so some poor guy is probably drowning his sorrows in beer because of this. But she comes in and sits with these guys, laughing and giggling like she's one of them. You've probably heard how they talk about her when she leaves to them. She's just easy prey. It will all end in tears, and she'll be the only one hurt. Not that I don't believe you, but why are you so sure? As I said, it's my job. You see everything, and I've seen it all before. If she's lucky when this little shorty is done with her, it'll be a wake-up call and she'll try to fix things with her husband. More likely, she'll get so caught up in the feeling of being young again that she'll start looking for another young guy. Believe me, it's just as addictive as those cigarettes that teenagers think they have to smoke. Eventually, she'll be going to bars, offering herself to any young man who seems even a little bit interesting to her. It's really sad. You sound like an experienced man. He leaned forward so that his mouth was close to my ear. Why do you think there's no wife here? When he pulled back, I saw sadness in his eyes. He seemed like a decent guy, and it pained him to even talk about it. He looked down at my glass. Now, sir, will you have another one? No, thank you. My lunch break is over. I'd better get back to work. Thanks for the conversation. The pub owner had certainly given me something to think about. Could I live with? This situation is Barb hooked. She had already lied to me, so maybe she is that evening. Barb sat on my lap. She writhed on me. Little Frank felt the tightness of my pants. She took my hands from the sides and placed them between her legs. I pulled my hands back to her hips. How is little Dick doing these days? For a moment. I hesitated before she answered honestly. I don't know Frank. I haven't talked to him in probably 4 weeks. She was good. If I hadn't seen it all myself. I might have believed her. So you have 8 weeks left. And after that, maybe we can get back to a normal life. Do we really need to wait? Frank. I'm sure we'll be fine. If you're really worried, you can always don't even think about it. Barb. I interrupted. I'm not going to take precautions just because he didn't. I pushed her off my lap and stood up. I went to my room and lay on the bed, thinking I realized that she would never be honest with me. She needed me. She needed my stability like a rebellious child, needs stable parents, and then I understood that I couldn't be that stability. I couldn't watch her deteriorate, as my friend in the pub described. I had to break up with her. The next 2 weeks I spent preparing to move out. I found a place to stay, took some time off and arranged to borrow the company van. I realized that Barb used the room that used to be ours for her secret meetings. I decided to leave on Thursday after a minor confrontation with the lovers. I picked up the van and parked it in the garage. The morning flew by unnoticed and I only managed to pack my things and make preparations. The coffee pot stood on the gas stove waiting a little after 2 in the afternoon. Barbara's car pulled up to the house. I watched as they approached the front door. She had said he was 20. He looked more like 16. I opened the front door. Barbara's mouth fell open. I looked at little Richard from the way he approached the door. I could tell he was scared. Barbara almost had to drag him through the door. "What are you doing here?" "Frank." "I could ask you the same." I thought it was over. At least she had the decency to blush. "I'm sorry, Frank. I really tried, but I just couldn't resist. Eventually I had to talk to him and then you can guess the rest." "I'm sorry, Frank, truly sorry. But we can get through this. I know we can go back to work. We can talk about it tonight. I want to talk to him, to your lover. Frank, do you really think that's wise? It will only embarrass you. Barb. If a man is going to come into my house, smoke in my bedroom, and sleep with my wife, the least he can do is sit and talk to me. Does this mean what I think it means?" "Frank, you really don't mind." "Nobody said I don't mind, but I don't want to see you unhappy, so I'll have to deal with it. I just wanted to meet him, and you really promised not to hurt him. I already told you I wouldn't touch him." She walked over to him, took his hand, and pulled him towards me. "Frank. This is Richard. Richard, this is Frank. Hi, Dick. Come in, sit down, have a cup of coffee. My name is Richard." "Sir, it's nice to meet you." He extended his hand for me to shake. "Well, sorry, Dick, but I can't shake your hand." "I promised, Barb. I wouldn't touch you, and I always keep my promises." I saw him fumbling in his pocket. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, took one out and stuck it in his mouth. He took out a lighter and was about to light. Don't be an idiot. Richard, those things will kill you, and if you light up in front of me, I might have to do the job for them. It's customary to ask before smoking in a man's house, and I don't want to end up smelling like an ashtray." "Sorry, sir. I thought it was okay. Babs said you wouldn't mind. Well, Babs was wrong. What happens in that bedroom between you two is up to her, but making me passively inhale your toxic smoke is not part of the deal. Clear?" "Yes, sir, perfectly clear." With trembling hands, he put the cigarette away. "From what I understand, you like cigarettes after sex. I don't get why you smoke those things. Don't you know the risks?" "Oh, yes. I know, sir, but they say if I quit for 10 years, the risk drops to 0. I figure, if I quit by the time I'm 30, I'll be clean by the time I'm your age. That's assuming you live that long, Dick. Now drink your coffee." "So what happens now? Dick, will you be able to support her as well as she's accustomed to you? Do plan to marry her, right?" I thought he would spill his coffee. So great was his shock at what I suggested, seeing his predicament. Barb intervened. "Very well, we haven't even discussed that I am your wife and always will be." "I see. So he's just a little fling on the side." "Right." "Barb. Stop it, Frank. Either go back to work or we're leaving. We'll talk about this tonight." I turned again to the young man sitting at the table. "Well, Dick, I see. Barb is starting to get anxious." Barb began to fidget, shifting from foot to foot and wringing her hands. It reminded me of when my daughter was waiting for her first dates. Maybe she's afraid of losing you, or maybe she's worried about losing her place in your little group for the first time. I saw a hint of recognition in his eyes, as if I had just confirmed that we had met before, but he couldn't remember where. "Nevertheless, it seems I should get back to work and leave you lovebirds alone. I must say, sir, you're handling this very well. I don't think I could do the same. It's called love, son. I always swore I'd make Barb happy for the rest of her life, and that's exactly what I intend to do." Barb came over and hugged me around the neck. "I really love you, I said nothing. Barb started tugging at young Dick's hand. He began to get up. "Are we done here, sir?" "Of course," I said. "Go and have fun." He stopped as Barb pulled him away. "Sir, may I smoke a cigarette?" If Barb doesn't mind, then go ahead. The master bedroom was separated from the kitchen by a partition, just one cinder block thick. I could hear them giggling as they undressed each other. I went around, gathered the last of my things, carried them to the van and placed them with the rest, then returned to the house. I poured coffee over the flame on the gas stove and left an hour later. All my belongings were in my new apartment, and I went out for groceries when everything was unpacked and put away. It was almost 6. I turned on the TV just in time for the news headlines. "Tonight on Points West, a house in Kings Snort was destroyed by a powerful explosion," said the announcer. That caught my attention. I watched the national news and waited for the regional reports. The regional headlines were read, and then I saw a street that looked very much like the one I used to live on. As the camera panned down the street, I saw 2 houses that looked very much like my neighbors' homes, and between them a pile of rubble where my little bungalow used to be. Thank God for insurance, I thought. A reporter stood in front of the camera delivering her story. Around 3 o'clock this afternoon, the entire Kings Snort area was shaken by a powerful explosion, shattering windows and homes throughout the vicinity. The homeowners, Mr. and Mrs. Bigelow, are believed to have been in bed at the time. Both were pronounced dead at the scene, a fire. Officer entered the frame and the reporter seized the opportunity to interview him. "So, Officer Reynolds, do we know what caused such a powerful explosion? Is it related to terrorism? We have found no signs of explosives. Everything points to an explosive buildup of gas. I'm afraid people don't treat it with the respect it deserves. Leave a gas valve open for some time, and all it takes is an ignition source, something as simple as turning on a light or lighting a cigarette." I thought, can you say how the occupants died? We'll have to wait for the autopsy, but it appears to be from the explosion. The reporter finished her piece on camera and I turned off the TV. I took out my laptop and turned it on. Barb's face looked at me, and for the first time in many years, I dissolved into tears. I stroked her face on the screen. "Forgive me, Barb. I couldn't let him do that to you. They say an addict has to hit rock bottom. I couldn't watch that happen to you. I'm sorry, Barb. I love you and I always will. Please forgive me." I sat like that for a little over 2 hours. The computer had already gone into sleep mode. I turned it back on, opened the browser, and found the phone number for the news channel's editorial office. Then I dialed the number. It took some time speaking with a few lower-level people before I reached someone who could make decisions. "Hello," I said. "You just did a report from what's left of my house." "Yes, the one on Exeter Road. My name is Frank Bigelow and you just told everyone that I was dead. But I must tell you I am very much alive." I paused, and I don't smoke. Thank you for listening until the end. See you in the next episode of Cheating Secrets. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Goodbye.